If you've ever thought about how will I get in touch with my donor in the future, or what if my child wants to chat with my donor at a time that's appropriate, then you may be wondering, how does the Donor Sibling Registry work? Let's talk about it. What's up? My name is Corlandos Scott, and I am an assisted reproductive technologies attorney in Los Angeles. And that basically just means that I help people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies like egg donation. In this episode, we're going to talk about what is the Donor Sibling Registry. We'll also talk about how does it work, and we'll look at the implications on anonymous donations. Let's dive in. So what is the Donor Sibling Registry? Let's just call it the DSR to be cool. The DSR is a website and nonprofit organization in the US, and it's intended for children conceived through egg, sperm, and embryo donation. Now, from its creation sometime back in 2000, from the nearly 75,000 members that compose its membership from donors, parents, and donor-conceived children, more than 20,000 IVF or donor-conceived children have connected with their half-siblings and or their donors through the Donor Sibling Registry. One of the things that makes the DSR really cool is that it was founded by a mother and her, get this, donor-conceived son. But you may be wondering, what is it for? Who uses the Donor Sibling Registry? Well, it was founded to assist donor-conceived individuals, people that were born as a result of egg, sperm, or embryo donations, to make mutually desirable contacts with their respective donors, half-siblings, or anyone with whom they share genetic ties, like even half-cousins and uncles and aunties and grandpas and grandmas. So essentially it's set up so that you can contact your relatives if you are a donor-born child or even a donor. So let's talk about how does the Donor Sibling Registry work. And you may be thinking, well, Corlandos, that sounds a lot like, Ancestry DNA or 23andMe. And yes, it's very similar to that, but also with a twist. The Donor Sibling Registry really provides a safe environment for donors and donor-born children to be comfortable and keep the doors of communication open between themselves. So when the donor signs up to the Donor Sibling Registry, they're automatically filed under the clinic, the facility, or the cryobank that they were working with using the donor number that's assigned to them. So you have someone who's registered with the registry, but it's not their real name, it's their anonymous donor alias. Now, what happens when two or more people sign up with the same donor number? They're filed together as a match. Now, a match for the Donor Sibling Registry refers to half-siblings. So when a donor donated her eggs to two or more individuals, that means that there are going to be half-siblings out there. One of the big benefits of the Donor Sibling Registry is that it allows its members to ask questions, to exchange medical information, and even, if they would like, to meet the biological parent or the genetic parent of the child when the time is right for both of them, if they both agree. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos around egg donation and some of the terms that are in egg donor contracts, you know that I really believe that it's important that the parties to an egg donor contract consider wanting to communicate with the donor in the future regarding future health or medical issues. One of the things that intended parents often want to leave the door open for communication about is if for some reason their child encounters some kind of health issue that the doctor determines is genetic in nature, they want the ability to be able to reach out to the donor and find out if there's any information the donor can provide them that will help them address that medical issue. And the Donor Sibling Registry clearly allows people to have that type of communication that would allow for that kind of information swapping. So what does it mean when a donor registers with the Donor Sibling Registry? Well, what a donor is effectively saying when she registers or he registers with the Donor Sibling Registry is that they agree to be contacted by the child after the child reaches the age of 18, or at any time really if the child wishes to know or contact the donor. Now, the communications for the Donor Sibling Registry between the donor and the child or between children, it can be done initially through the website on Donor Sibling Registry, or it can be done initially there and then carried on a mutually agreed upon method off the site, like email or even video chat like Skype or Zoom or something like that. One of the important characteristics of the Donor Sibling Registry is all communications on the Donor Sibling Registry are anonymous. And speaking of anonymous donations, let's look at the Donor Sibling Registry and let's talk about anonymous donations a little bit. Before we talk about anonymity, are you liking the channel? Do you like the videos and the content? If so, just click the like button. Let me know. It makes me feel good. It gives me the warm and fuzzies. Also, go ahead and subscribe so that you get updated on whenever I drop new videos. And if you click the bell right next to the subscribe button, then you'll really be notified and you won't miss a thing. You know, no FOMO for you. So let's talk about those possible implications of the Donor Sibling Registry and what that means to anonymous donations. And before we even do that, let's talk about this idea of anonymity. Now, being an anonymous donor or entering into an egg donation agreement with the guarantee of anonymity is somewhat of a misnomer, and I'll explain why. Simply put, in today's day and age with the technology that we have, it is very difficult to guarantee anyone that they will forever be 100% anonymous. So when we're talking about anonymity in terms of a donor arrangement or a donor contract, what we're saying is we have two parties entering into an egg donor arrangement, and both of those parties agree that they do not need to know the legal identity of the other party, and they will not seek out the legal identity. They won't try to find the legal identity. They won't stalk or harass the other person in order to get their legal identity and their identifying information. It's not necessarily saying 100% certainty that you will never be discovered by your legal identity. And there's a few reasons why we can't guarantee that. You know, donor-conceived children, they're like all other children. They're often curious about their genetic origins and their ethnic heritage and all of that stuff. So even without the Donor Sibling Registry, when a donor-conceived child reaches 18, he or she can request identifying information about their donor for health reasons and otherwise. Now, it doesn't mean that the clinic would be obligated to give that up, but they can start seeking that information out. And here's a pro tip. Remember this. The child that is born from egg donation is not a party to the egg donor contract. What do I mean by that? Well, when you enter into an egg donor contract with a donor, you sign the contract and the donor signs the contract. And each of you are making promises to each other and representations to each other and guarantees to each other, and you have responsibilities to each other, but the child doesn't make those same guarantees and they don't have the same responsibilities. So whereas you said that you agree to remain anonymous and not to seek out the information of the donor, the child never signed that. So when that child decides, it can do whatever it wants, and really it would be difficult to hold that child liable for an agreement that it did not enter into. Another reason why anonymity is somewhat of a misnomer these days with regards to egg donor contracts, think about the technology that we have now, like DNA testing services, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, and on and on. Anyone can get a packet in the mail and send back their saliva to a lab and get all types of information about their genetic makeup and possibly get connected to people who are genetically related to them. So who's to say that if a donor goes and does a DNA test one day and 10 years later, a child goes and does a DNA test, that the outside company like Ancestry.com won't connect them and let them know they're related? And it wouldn't be the first time that this happened. Already, as young as these industries, the DNA testing sites are, there's already been secrets exposed, so to speak. There have been people who have discovered all kinds of things about their lineage and their makeup that they didn't hold to be true before they sent in that test. Now, we hope the accuracy of the test is correct, but all that to say that the donor and the child can be connected or can be exposed in their connection by a third party that we can't control in a donor contract. And if you're considering registering or asking your donor to register with the Donor Sibling Registry, make sure you understand the costs. There is a cost to this service, and really the cost is just to support the DSR website and other related expenses in maintaining the organization, as it is a nonprofit. So there's an annual $99 a year or a one-time $199 permanent membership fee at the time of this recording. So in the scheme of the expenses that it takes to have a child through assisted reproduction and egg donation, it's one of the smaller fees in that journey. So if it's important to you, make sure that you ask your donor and even put it in your contract that she agrees to sign up for the Donor Sibling Registry if a pregnancy and a actual live child results from the donation that she makes to you. So if you're thinking about embarking on a donor journey and you're looking for some help doing it, I would love to chat with you. I kind of do it on a daily basis, so you can pick my brain and get some good information. So just click the link below and you'll be taken to a personal chat with me. I would love to chat, find out exactly where you are in your journey, and if there's anything I can give you that'll help you get to the next step in your journey. So click the link and let's chat.